My name's Christina McHale, and thank you for joining us for this special Justice Clearinghouse webinar where we're going to continue taking your questions about understanding the younger generations in the workplace, especially Generation Z. Today's recording is a continuation of our earlier live webinar with Brenda Dietzman. Based on your overwhelming response, we're going to continue answering the questions that were already sent in for that Ask Me Anything. If you have any questions after this recording, you can always visit us at justiceclearinghouse.com, and Brenda will also have her contact information on the very last slide of this presentation as well. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe and click on the bell on this YouTube video channel so that we can be notifying you as we release more webinars for you. Well, Brenda, welcome back. Let's jump right into that first question.
Oh my goodness, thanks so much, Kristen. And yes, we have had overwhelming. I think that when that webinar announcement came out, we ended up getting like 70 questions, 70 plus questions,
Like in
right?
the first day,
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. And then it was so great because then during the presentation, which was actually just, and I know that this is taped, but earlier this week, we got even more questions that were asked. And then the webinar survey, people even put more questions in. So it's like there's this overwhelming amount of just, and it's encouraging, right? Because
Right,
the people are actually wanting to work better together
exactly.
and understand each other. And I think that, that whole idea of communication and just understanding how we all tick can really
Hmm.
make for a better workplace, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes. So yeah, I've got a lot of great questions. We're going to jump in here, and Chris, I hope you jump in. You have a wealth of information on this as well. So I want you to jump in and please give your insight into this because that's just going to add to it. So, all right, let's just get going because we want to get to the good stuff here. So the very first question that we're going to talk about is this: my younger employees don't ask questions on assignments despite always making mistakes and being coached on them, right? How can I best provide feedback in a way they understand? So this is a great question, right? So the first thing, I'm just going to say this, right? They could be lazy or they just don't care. This is something that, and it's going to come up quite a bit during this little conversation that we're having today. There are just lazy people in this world and people who just don't care. So keep that in mind as you supervise folks. Um, if they are potentially engaged or they are good people, they are good employees, maybe no one's listening to them. Maybe no one's encouraging them. So I have this feeling that the supervisors, it's either their way or the highway type thing. So they're just gonna keep their head down, do their job, and not do anything crazy. So that might be something that is holding people up in this area. And also, as a result of that, they might wait to receive the feedback or the coaching instead of approaching supervision because um, it's not supervision in this situation isn't approachable. So that might be some of the hurdles that you're facing here. Also, one of the things that our generation, and I'm a Gen Xer, almost a baby boomer, but I'm a Gen Xer. We made fun of the millennials when they came into the workforce, and as well as Gen Z, they come in and they got all these ideas and they're all excited about everything. Um, yeah, we make fun of them for that because it's like, you've been on the job since Tuesday and you think you can come in and run this place, or you got all these ideas. You got to learn how to do your job first, type thing, before you start getting crazy with the ideas. Yeah, that makes people shut down, especially these younger generations. And again, they end up just doing the work to get the paycheck as a result of that. So don't make fun of these folks. I think it's great that they come in and they want to improve the organization and make the professions better that we're all in. So that's a big thing here. So also, here's some action items behind this. Always explain the why and the purpose behind what you're telling folks to do. Ask if they have questions on a regular basis. Jump in ahead of time. Check in with them on a regular basis because the younger generations, they've always had an authority figure present in their life. Think about the amount of structured, things that they do, as opposed to when I was a kid, you know, we came home when the street lights came on. But these kids, they're structured activities, and when you have structured activities, you're gonna have an adult or an authority figure present. So that's what they're used to. So check in on a regular basis with them. Try to anticipate questions and problems that are out there. Um, ask them if they want you to show them how to do things. They live in a YouTube generation. I know I've heard people talk about, you know, their kid broke down, they had a flat tire. And what they did is they didn't know how to change a flat tire, but they just looked it up on YouTube, right there on the side of the road, and then they changed their tire, right? So this is something that they do. So maybe doing a video or something like that might be a great idea. And then learn the difference between a forgiveness and a permission, decision, or action. And I think that this is one really important thing that we do. Um, the younger generations becoming supervisors at a much younger age, less life and work experience than what we had, and it's no fault of theirs. And some of them can overcome that, just because they put themselves in a bunch of situations where they gain a bunch of experience. But in general, they don't have the life or work experience than what we did when we became supervisors. So we really have to let them fail at a lower level, and make mistakes. And so the difference between a forgiveness or permission decision or action is basically, if you do something and I can forgive you for doing that, and I'm not going to end up on the national news tomorrow because of your mistake, then, you know, let them do that. Let them struggle a little bit to get that experience. But on the flip side of that, if it's a permission-based decision, that I absolutely need to come in and help make that decision so I don't get them in trouble or the organization in trouble, yeah, then please call me and let's have a conversation about that. So let them learn through mistakes, and give them assignments that have consequences for others, right? Not just themselves. So you got
Well,
anything to add, Chris?
isn't this also about taking that enthusiasm and that energy and channeling it as a leader? I mean, capturing and harnessing their enthusiasm for the job and their excitement that they're brand new and they've got all these great ideas and they've got all this energy, and helping them channel it for the good of the organization.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing. And again, we make fun of them for doing that, but it's
But it can
it's
be
actually
good.
it's actually yeah, it's awesome if you think about it. So yeah.
You know, you mentioned something, and I'm going to chime in here. We actually do something very similar to what you talked about here at Justice Clearinghouse. Um, I am technologically normal. I wouldn't say I'm an expert at a lot of things, and sometimes I have to go back and do tasks that I haven't done in 6 months. And so what we've started doing here internally and culturally is we create little YouTube or little videos, for lack of a better way of saying it, that show step by step by step by step, tick this box, don't forget to do this, don't forget to, you know, all the little tricks that we do in the back end of everything that we do here at Justice Clearinghouse. And then we all have access to this repository of videos internally, that when we have to upload a document or we have to change the settings on something, it's all right there. And so we don't
That's
always have to go back to Aaron and bug him about, how do I do that again? Or what did you mean when you said? And we can just basically go back to that video and start from there. And then if we still need his input, we can still go back and get his assistance. Brenda, you said something also that I wanted to capture here while we were still here. Uh, isn't it a good thing as a leader to have the self-awareness to sometimes take a step back and realize we can be blind to our own problems, we can be blind to our own culture, or we can be blind to things if that's just the way we've always done it, and not realize that sometimes technology has changed or things have advanced and there's new ways of getting something done more efficiently? Isn't it good to have a fresh pair of eyes on these situations?
Yeah, I think it's great to have a second set of eyes. I think it's great to encourage people to have input into the organization. And I think it's great what you're doing with those little videos, because you're actually maintaining or codifying that institutional knowledge So, if somebody
Making
wins the
people
lottery,
self-sufficient.
yeah, if somebody wins the lottery and that person leaves, you're still going to be able to function, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Law enforcement agency has a very classical hierarchical structure, defined chain of command, right? And they're really about setting expectations, at least for the most part. And I appreciate that caveat, Matt. He's found that a couple of his younger and coincidentally less mature officers don't always follow the guidance, even though they've been given the why a lot, right? So, um, and of course, he talks about, if they don't follow the rules, there's always the discipline that they could go for. And they need to, right, to set those boundaries. But that he's got some old souls, right, that have a great work ethic, but he's also got some other folks that maybe don't. So question is this: is there a magic bullet? Boy, I wish, because I would give that to you in a heartbeat if I could. But perhaps presenting expectations in a framework that he hadn't considered. So, Matt, I appreciate the question a lot. Here's what I would say. What I have found throughout my career, 28 years in law enforcement, 20 plus of those years as a supervisor, this is what I found. There's three types of employees in the workplace, right? There's the go-getters. These are the old souls with the work ethic that you were talking about, right? And then there's the I'm going to live up to my potential employee, right? And this is somebody who is not a go-getter. They may have all the talent, skill those the go-getters have, but and they try hard every single day and they do a great job for you, right? They're just not going to take that extra step. And then there are those ones that have the potential, but just don't live up to it. And these are the most aggravating people for me, right? I can get less out of that live up to the potential employee and be happier with them than I am with these folks that who don't live up to their potential, because I want to help them do that. So that's really aggravating to me. And those are the folks that you have to look at and go, have the conversation with and say, you're not living up to your potential, but then not try to fix them and spend all of your time trying to fix them and grow them. Because if, and studies show this, right? If you spend more time on your go-getters, your organization actually improves. So I want to caution everyone here, and this is Brenda talking, okay? This is not research talking. This is Brenda talking just from my own experience. The younger generation to me is absolutely an amazing group of people. They are they have some of the oldest souls, right? I've got 10-year-olds talking about the meaning of life with me, which I absolutely adore. And they've got some great ideas. I think that first of all, there's been lazy people everywhere. I remember when I was just getting into the workforce, I would look around and I was kind of one of those go-getters, but I would look around, I was like, that person's just lazy, right? And it was impossible to get them to do anything just outside of the minimum. So there's always been lazy people. But I think it's a little skewed today because we look at some of these people coming into the workforce and they have incredible talents, incredible skills. They're very invested in the profession and their mission and their why. And they really have raised the bar in our society. And as a result of that, we look at the lazy people or the people who just aren't the go-getters, and we're really focused in on them because that bar has been set so high by so many of their colleagues. So always remember, there's always been lazy people. And there's always been those people just don't want to do anything. But I think that's a little bit more pronounced today because of those very high achieving Gen Zers and millennials that we have out there. So little action items around this. First of all, set boundaries and expectations. If they're not met, they've got to have consequences, and set these early in a year. And the reason being, there was a research study done out of the Pew Research Group just a few years ago, and it said 48% of Gen Z parents, the authority figures in their lives, followed through with discipline. So 52% of them did not. So when Gen Zers come into the workforce, they look at you as the authority figure. And when you say, do this, don't do this, or don't do this, do this, they're like, I got a 52% shot that they're not going to follow through with their threatened discipline. So it's really important up front to set those boundaries and expectations, and then follow through with discipline if need be, to let them know that that boundary line is really important. And also discover why they're not living up to their potential, or why they're not going that extra mile. Maybe they're lazy, right? Like I said, there's always been lazy people. Maybe they're not in the right profession. Maybe they're not being listened to. Really, really look in the mirror as a supervisor and think about that. Maybe it's an unsafe environment. They try to do more and they get mocked for it. That makes people shut down and just collect the paycheck. They don't understand the why behind something or the purpose behind something. I think we all know the importance of explaining the why or the purpose, especially to our younger generations. And maybe the processes are just old and inefficient. So those are some things to think about and consider as you move through that situation. So going on to the next question here, how do I instill the importance of punctuality to the younger generation? So the next two questions are this question and the next one. I'm going to touch on that because this one comes up a lot when I'm out talking about this subject. So first of all, punctuality, action items here, right? Explain the why. It's not about being on time, it's about respect. So if you are late and you have appointments throughout the day, that gets you behind the whole day. And who do you cheat to make up that time, right? To get back on schedule. So being there on time sometimes is important if you have appointments throughout the day. It also requires other people to apologize or to try to make excuses for you and to deal with upset people. And this is going to be normally your professional staff. They're the ones that are going to have to deal with this and kind of be the buffer for you. So please be respectful to them, especially if you have appointments waiting for you first thing in the morning. Making others feel like they have value. A lot of people in the helping professions, if you see people on a regular basis, whatever that might be, as a probation, parole officer, victim advocate, any of those things, detective, boy, if you're not on time for that appointment and you don't have a good excuse for that, it makes them feel less valued, makes that victim feel less valued. And they've already been hurt that way. So you're just compounding that. So be respectful for them. And then making others stay late, especially in a 24/7 operation. If they have a post, like in a jail or corrections facility, and you're late, then somebody has to fill that spot until you get there. So just being respectful for other people that you work with as well. So some action items on this: make sure you set clear boundaries, give them prompts, right? Tell them that they have to be there on time. Give kudos to people who are on time or when behavior improves. Absolutely. And then teach them time management skills. This is pretty straightforward, but sometimes they just haven't been taught that. Renee, I find myself questioning the new generation of the workforce. I get that a lot, Renee. Every time we hire someone new, they seem to take off or call off very quickly into their new position. I always question their lack of work ethic and would love to understand why they have this thinking and seem to be okay with calling off or taking leave even within a very short time of their start date. Great question, Renee. And I get this a lot. So here's some things to think about. Reasons for using sick leave. Almost half of Gen Z, and this really kind of surprised me actually. Almost half of Gen Z believe that being 5 to 10 minutes late is still considered punctual. I don't know where that comes from, but just understand that they have that mindset. Gen Z does not subscribe to the idea if you're not 15 minutes early, you are late. Okay, I heard that all the time growing up, and military people really have that rule. So requiring them to be early can open you up to having to pay overtime. So even as a boss, if you say this, right, if you're not 15 minutes, you're late. So when people start showing up, they might have an argument that you owe them overtime. So be real careful about saying things like that. You can talk about the concept behind it, but be real careful about ordering people to do that. I thought this was interesting. 70% of baby boomers believe that being on time is actually late. So we have gone from, if you're not early, you're late. And then if to Gen Zers saying, if I'm there and 5 to 10 minutes late, I'm still on time. We've really gone to the different side of the spectrum there. There could also be job boredom. They may not feel invested or that they have a purpose and that they're simply there for a paycheck. And that can happen for a number of reasons. So we really have to clean up our environment. It could be mental health. Today, uh, people use their sick time for mental health days as opposed to just being physically sick. And that's a lot different. I mean, I remember having bad days and going to work and bad days after really bad events the night before when I was a young deputy. So today they're going to use their time not only for physical illness, but also for mental health issues, and good for them for doing so. And then also, this is kind of a new thing as well. We call it the sandwich generation, and Gen X is going through this right now, and sometimes even the older millennials. They're not only caring for children, but they're also caring for their aging parents. So doctor's appointments and everything like that, illnesses with the kids and daycare and all that brings, that can add up to a lot of sick leave usage. So we've got to be cognizant of the reasons behind why they are using it. Understanding we can't ask for the most part. So this gets into some action items here on the use of sick leave. First of all, this is a benefit they are entitled to use. We give this to them as employers, so we have to be real careful about that. And questioning them about what is wrong or why they can't come in can lead to a lawsuit. I am not an attorney, so please contact your in-house counsel, your HR department, someone, so you can start to work through if you have someone that is using a lot of sick leave and you have a suspicion they might be abusing it for whatever reason, then yes, go to your HR department and have a conversation with them. Because again, this is a benefit that we are giving them. Okay. Older generations have a tendency to believe you need to save that time up. So when you actually need it, you have it. But this is a different generation. So talk to your HR and talk to your in-house counsel or your county councilor, city councilor, whatever it is, to get some different ideas on that. Talk with HR and see how they want you to handle the situation. Get some ideas from them, find some remedies that are within your policy. Also, you can potentially discipline people for different patterns. So calling off on their Mondays or Fridays. Let the Gen Z employee know how their behavior affects others and examine and improve the environment. Maybe it's just that they just don't want to come into work because there's a bad supervisor. It's not an inviting atmosphere, whatever the case may be. But again, be really careful about judging people on this and just have a great conversation with your HR department. On to the next question. How do you supervise Gen Z who questions what you do as a supervisor? Kathy, great question. I'm going to assume that someone who does a lot of questioning your supervisory skills or decisions that you make, and could potentially maybe even bring a toxic environment into the workplace. And this is not somebody that's just wanting to learn leadership skills from you. So I'm going to go the bad route in this situation. So where's it coming from, and some action items here? First of all, is it their personality? Are they just a grumpy person? Are they just one of those people that loves chaos? They're very anxious for whatever reason, and they just really just want to tear everybody else down and bring them into their chaos. Make sure that you set boundaries for them. If they take up, like 5 minutes of your time every day, that's 1% of your time every single day. Just give or take a few seconds, right? So, your work day. So be very careful about always allowing them to have access to you. Make sure that you set those boundaries. And then the next thing here, and this is big, right? Communicate with everyone so you are the one communicating and not the negative informal leaders within your organization. I often say that communication as a supervisor, it's the last thing that we do, but it's the most important thing that we do. It's the last thing that we do, though, because there's no deadline to it. There's a deadline to going to that meeting, to getting the report done, to doing all of these things, but there's no deadline on communication. So first of all, schedule it. Put time on your calendar, on your Outlook, whatever it is, to communicate with your people. And then be proactive about this, right? Be proactive. Uh, Anticipate questions that are gonna be coming out, especially if it has to do with like change management or something like that. And answer before they're even asked. And this can shut those types of people down that continuously question who and what you're doing. Give positive feedback when it's deserved, especially to those people who are always, knocking on your door and questioning every decision that you make. Don't get so soured on them that you don't keep being a good supervisor to them. And then have an open, honest conversation. Ask them why they continuously question you. Maybe it's their personality. Maybe you can talk to them about this is not normal. How much you're doing this and you're spending way too much. I'm renting too much space in your head. And maybe have a conversation with them about that, about working through why a certain decision was made. So, but again, have an open and honest conversation. Most of the time, people like that are open to having that conversation with you. All right, so on to the next question. Oh, these are such good ones here. What are some of the most effective ways to recruit Gen Z? Denise, great question. I get this a lot. In fact, I do a lot of in-person trainings. I've got a great course that I'm going to tell you about here on Justice Clearinghouse that you can get to help with that. So the most effective ways, it depends on the person. It depends on the profession. There's a lot of things that go into this. Um, in that course, I give you a bunch of ideas, and hopefully you get some things. Not everything's going to work for everyone. So gleaning those good things that come out of that class that you can potentially use to see if they work. But I'm going to talk about a few here. Some of the ones that I've seen and have been told that make the biggest impact. So you have something to go away with from this little webinar. So first of all, application speed's the key. 60% of Gen Z says the job application should take less than 15 minutes to fill out. So I often ask people, like, how long's your application? And law enforcement, I'm looking at you, you, your profession is notorious, and my organization, because I came from law enforcement, same thing, right? Our application, if you printed it out, was 26 pages long, and that takes a lot longer than 15 minutes. Now, do you need that personal history questionnaire and the answers to it? Yes, you do, because you got to do the background and to make sure that you're getting good people in the organization. But it doesn't have to be right away. So one of the things that I highly suggest is coming up with this employment interest form. It's not an application per se. It's just saying, hey, I'm interested in coming to work with you. Because what they're doing is they're reaching out their hand to say, I want a relationship with you. I want to see what you're like. So on this employment interest form, name, email, phone number. That's all you have to ask, because that's all you need to start a relationship with them, because you can start calling, you can start texting with them, you know their name, right? And then you can start to guide them through the application process, especially if it's a long one, right? And explaining why they need to fill out the personal history questionnaire, explain why they need to take a polygraph test, all of those things. And you can encourage them as you go through and help build them up. So one of the things that we would do is, in my old organization here in Wichita, is that we had something similar to this that we would send out. We actually had it on Facebook at the time, and we would get a lot of interest. I mean, a lot. We would get like 2 or 3 a day, and of people just reaching out and saying, "Hey, I'm interested and having a conversation with you." So we would do job fairs specifically in our detention facility. And what we would do is when people would fill one of these out, we would actually assign a recruiter, and it didn't have to be a full-time recruiter. In fact, I even participated in this and spent time texting the people who fill this little form out. So come up with these applicant coaches and these mentors, right? Assign these recruiters or whoever they are to the applicant, follow, encourage them along each step, and then set up notification from the hiring team. So like if someone has a written test to do and it's going to be on Tuesday at 1 o'clock, right? At Tuesday at, 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm texting that person going, "Hey, don't forget, you've got this test today. It's 1 o'clock. This is the location." And making sure that there's like a prompt or a push for them if they've forgotten it, or if they don't feel like anybody cares, or it's just another thing they have to do today. It prompts them to remember it and then to go take the test. Okay. And you can also encourage it, like, when you get done, let me know how you did. Right. So it creates this interaction and this relationship with a person. Right. And the beautiful part about this is that if the person ends up getting hired, they have a built-in mentor already who they know cares about them, because they've been caring about them all the way through the application process. So here's we had job fairs for our detention facility, and one of the things that we would do when we got these employment interest forms submissions in is we would assign them to a person, and in this case, Victoria, who's an applicant, was assigned to me. So this is the conversation that I had back and forth with her, right? "Hey, this is Colonel Dietzman, just a reminder for the jail tour tonight. We can't wait to meet you, 141 West Elm, 5:30. Let me know if you have any questions." And she texts back, "Ola, I'll be there, specific attire." Now this is important, because if had not reached out to her, this was a question that she had. And if she doesn't have like dress clothes, or she didn't want to get dressed up, or whatever the case may be, right? That could have been a hurdle for her just to come to the tour. So by me being able to answer this before she actually came. So I said, "No shorts, jeans are fine." "Okay, perfect." She's like, "Great, thanks. See you then." May not have happened had I not reached out. And then a couple days later, "Good day. I have submitted my application." And I was like, "This is awesome. Don't forget to get signed up for the test." And then she goes, "I go in on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Excellent. Let me know how it goes." Then she texts back, right? 90% on a written test. Agility test is scheduled this day and this time, which I put in my calendar, right? And she started that questionnaire packet. 90%, you're a rock star. Okay, that's a 50-year-old trying to sound cool, by the way. And then I'm like, "I'm so excited to get you on board." And she's like, "Thanks, I'm pretty excited also," right? So see how that relationship really helped get her through this process. So we actually get her in as an actual applicant and potentially that employee. So Chris, you got something to add here, my friend?
I just, you made me, as you talked about this, you made me think of a couple of things. And And again, this is me having never been a cop, never carried a gun or carried a badge, and there's all kinds of reasons why both those things are true. But it kind of strikes me from what I've heard from a number of our speakers, it used to be that a lot of families were in the profession.
Mhm.
If Uncle Joe was a cop or
Right.
dad was a detective, it was not uncommon to see a second, third, fourth generation come up through the ranks, and go into the profession. Maybe different parts of the profession, but still, they kind of knew the business they were getting into.
Yes,
And so,
yes.
is my interpretation of this that there may have been a lot of this coaching going on during the application process,
Great point.
informally inside the family, around the dinner table or at Thanksgiving, giving asides or side comments or hey, don't forget. It seems like a lot of this may be a product of the fact that a lot of this coaching used to take informally and take place inside a family unit, whereas now we as an organization, a formal structure, can't count on that kind of coaching anymore. Am I interpreting this right?
That's a great point. You know what? And I love talking about this in front of really smart people like you because you come up with really good points like that, right? That it was. I mean, if somebody was frustrated about having to do something during an application process, if dad or mom was the cop or whatever it was, whatever profession, they could answer that question. And continuously push, like, when's your physical agility test? When's your written test? When's your polygraph? And they would push them because they wanted to see their kids get into that profession. So that is a great point. And we just don't have that as much anymore because, well, specifically in law enforcement, I mean, a lot of family members don't want other family members getting into law enforcement anymore. So having that mentor outside of the family, yeah, that's a good fill in at that point. So excellent point.
Next
Excellent.
question.
Next question. Sounds great. Oh, I do want to
Mm.
listen, Chris, you might want to jump in on this too, because you
Yeah.
are the marketing guru on here. But I really want to caution people about this of engaging people, don't
Yeah.
market to these younger folks because everybody's got a help wanted sign. You're hiring, congratulations. So what? Everyone
Everybody
else is
is.
as well right now. Um, but we need to, instead of saying help wanted, help wanted, help wanted, we need to say this is a profession and it can be whatever profession we're in because we're all helping professions and that's listening to this webinar, right? We're all helping professions. What is it within our profession, within our organization, that we can provide you the ability to live your purpose, your meaning in life? Like I was reading the other day, it was something like 97% of Gen Zers want to fulfill, at least in part, their purpose through their work. They don't come to work for a paycheck anymore. They
Nope.
don't have to. They can go anywhere for a paycheck, right?
Nope.
We really have to engage people and show by example of what our current employees are doing, how they are fulfilling their purpose and meaning in life. So when people see that, they look at it and go, I want to do that too, because I can fulfill my purpose, my meaning in life the same way. So engage with people, don't market to people.
No, you're absolutely right. And this is both a good thing and an evolution, as you so often talk with Maslow's hierarchy of needs and such. This is an evolution that we've just naturally as a society gone through, but also we as Gen X have kind of instilled in our own kids that notion that 40 hours a week is an awfully long time to hate what you do. And so find what you love, find what you enjoy, find something that fulfills you. And by the way, that you can get a paycheck for at the same time is kind of like the golden ticket, if you will, of finding that purpose and getting paid to do your purpose. But that also means that they're picky.
Yes.
And sometimes they don't necessarily see how starting down here at this grunt job can give them a stepping stone up to the next rung or get them in the direction of where they want to go. You talked about purpose. I would be remiss and in terms of how to reach out to that younger generation. I would be remiss if I didn't mention, folks, if you are struggling with attracting and recruiting the right people, go make friends with your local universities. Go make friends with your local professors, with your local teachers. Get to know the schools, get to know the universities in your area. There is somebody in their program. There is absolutely somebody in the program. And especially if you approach it from the perspective of, look, I'm a cop. I'm here to talk about being a police officer for XYZ police department. But if you leave it open to be able to say, but we have lots of kinds of jobs. You don't have to just be a cop. We need IT people. We need
Yes,
victim services people. We need animal control people. There's
yes,
all kinds of people that the criminal justice system needs. You're just the door. And they may
yes,
go down all kinds of different hallways after that.
yeah,
But you got to be willing to go out and reach out to those schools and reach out to those universities. Start building those internship programs.
yes.
Start creating those work study programs. Start doing those ride alongs or anything you can do to make the program interesting
Yep,
and the career interesting as well. I'll let it back
yes.
to you. Next question, Brenda.
Great. What are the best ways to retain Gen Z? This is the next question, right? Because we now we want to keep it. So great question. This is one of those things that during the pandemic, between 2020 and 2021, the retention factors and the recruiting fact, they changed dramatically, right? It went from purpose to money and back to purpose as the number one thing. So what I did is kind of just a combination of a bunch of different articles that I've read over the years. Some of the things that are really important for the younger generations and for all of us at this point, right? Because it changes so much depending on the situation. And with the pandemic, that kind of exacerbated that. So um, first of all, purpose. We talk about that. I talk about that ad nauseum, right? You've got to have purpose. You've got to have meaning. I think one of the biggest, the one of the worst things that we did in during the pandemic is we took away we just got back to the core things that we do, and we took away, for the most part, in the helping professions, all of those extra things that really gave an opportunity for purpose and achievement within our profession. So reentry programs got cut in prisons and jails because we didn't have the people, or we didn't have the time. So many things like that got cut. And what research tells us, Liz Wiseman has a great book out there. She talks about this in her book, in a TED talk that she does as well, is that that when you take away that purpose, the way that they can fulfill their purpose, people get burned out more. And you can actually put more work on people if that work involves purpose and meaning, and they will actually feel less burned out. Absolutely amazing research there. So purpose, absolutely got to have that. Recognition and feedback. If you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, food, shelter, clothing, not an issue for people watching this webinar. This is a problem for some people in the United States, but people that we're recruiting, probably not a motivator. Employment, safety, which is that next level up, not a problem. We're up here in that friends, family, sense of connection. We're good with that too. We're up here with achievement um, and purpose, right? So really getting that recognition and that feedback. Inclusivity, very important for younger generations. They grew up watching mom go to work, right? They grew up playing with people that don't look like them. And that is just normal for them. So inclusivity is extremely important. Mental health and mental well-being, something that us baby boomers and Gen Xers, we instilled in our younger generations as parents, to take care of yourself mentally and physically as well. Communication, they've got to understand the why. That professional development. About 60 to 70% of millennials say that their professional development, that they're just not being developed. So when you get somebody into a supervisory position, I work with organizations that don't train them before or after. They just give them a new ID card and give them some responsibilities, give them a better paycheck, and say, good luck. We've got to train people both before and after promotion, because that is a big step, especially to that frontline supervisor position. And then embracing technology. I talk to a lot of administrators, and I'll ask them, how many of you have Chat GPT or some sort of AI program on your phone or on your computer? And right now, about maybe 5 to 10% of them raise their hand. And I'm like, you've got to get ahead of this because this is going to change our world. So, embracing technology and actually using it for good is going to be really important. And then, of course, fair compensation. Money is important to Gen Zers for so many reasons, mainly because they were raised by us Gen Xers. Us Gen Xers, we're spending their inheritance, so they're not expecting any money from us. And they want that security, a good financial um, uh, foundation in their life. So, Chris, what you got for me?
You said something that kind of struck me. It used to be back in the day when I first started working, and I think I suspect you as well. There was all kinds of training available at all of our organizations. I mean, you wanted to learn it, there was a training class, maybe not immediately, but next month or 2 weeks from now, there was something that you could go do and take. And to be frank, I regret not having taken advantage of more of those training opportunities
Right? Oh
back
my
in the
goodness.
day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now, I mean, so many of our organizations, you talked about professional development. So many of our organizations, their training departments have been cut, or the training departments that do exist, all they can do is just address what's going to keep people legal and on the street, or addressing the immediate needs. So I can almost hear some of our employees say, it's like, well, yeah, professional development's great, but there is nobody to do that anymore. How do we become the architects of our own professional development? How do we know what that means, what that looks like? How do we do it for ourselves in a day and age when so many organizations just simply don't have the training capacity?
A lot of it has to do with that we're short-staffed and it's just
Yeah.
really hard. So we'll get into that. We'll get in here in just a little bit. Some ideas on that. So thanks for that.
Okay.
So another thing that we can do to retain people is get to know people as human beings and start to think about their dreams, not only inside the organization, but outside in their lives as well. So one of the things that I encourage people to do is this is a great exercise to get to know your folks. So what does it mean for them to live a great story? And start to have a conversation with them about that. What do you want to learn both in life and in your career, right? What do you want to experience in both your life and in your career? Accomplish, and then how do you want to feel? Right? And just by having this conversation with them, either formally or informally, very important. You get to know them. That feels normal and natural to them because they've always had that authority figure there, right? So they like it having you around and knowing who and what and they want to know you as well. Right? I'm not talking about the lazy people, I'm talking about your go-getters, right? But having this conversation and then helping them fulfill that is going to be really important for them. So just an exercise that you might want to think about doing. Also taking care of them as a whole person, not just as an employee. So internal and external resources, things that are internal to us, like our health, our sleep, things that are internal to us, knowledge, skills, and then the external resources, right? Family, friends, how to have better relationships with them. Um, Maybe their hobbies, finances are big, sleep, teaching people how to get better sleep, uh, their optimism, having a great therapist, self-care plans, their mission, their values, their personal mission statements. I've got, I do a lot of work with that, and I think that that is such an important exercise to do for so many reasons. Really taking care of the whole person and growing the whole person as opposed to just the employee with their skills. How can you bring this in? Maybe a financial advisor for a lunch and learn or something like that, or an after hours thing where they can bring their family in so they can listen to a financial advisor. There's a lot of different things that you can do with this. My friend Wendy Hummel has a great program on Justice Clearinghouse, that how to build a wellness program from the ground up, right? From square one, really gives you some great ideas on how to do that. And I would encourage you to check that course out and to take it so you can start doing that within your organization, taking care of the whole person. It's a great way to retain people. Next question, we're short-staffed. What's an easy way to provide professional development for our Gen Z employees? Because again, it's really hard to get people to outside training or to spend time even training in your organization with people who work for you because they've got a job to do. And now you're adding that extra job duty on there of that of that training. So one of the ways that I would do this is really start to invest in their growth through micro learnings. This is again paying attention to our attention spans because they're like this right now. They're very, very short and very, very small. Start teaching people in about 3 to 7 minute chunks. And you can do this in the morning if you have a like an 8 to 5 job, at a morning meeting or something like this, or at squad meetings if you have squad meetings, roll call things like that. But just 3 to 7 minutes, and it can be about anything. It can be about case law if that affects your profession, best practices, maybe some safety bulletins, maybe some new standards, some wellness things, like finances. You know, if you save this amount of money every month, when you retire, you will have this amount of money. And this can be done through a lot of really fancy and expensive programs, or just take a Word document, put it on a shared drive, have people fill this out with different things that they come across, assign this out to your go-getters that want to make a difference in your community. This is just a Word document, right? So on April 1st, maybe you talk about a specific policy. On April 2nd, you talk about how to get better sleep, maybe some sleep hygiene tips that you could hand out. On April 3rd, maybe talk about a case law that just came out, something like that. But just 3 to 7 minutes every single day, right? And the beautiful thing about that is if you take out all of your like sick leave, vacation time, weekends, and things like this, 5 minutes a day for somebody that works 5 days a week is about 20 hours of training a year. And we tend to dismiss little itty bitty chunks of training like this, but 20 hours is a lot, right? So you can get a lot across to people in those 20 hours. So just that little micro learning. And if you don't have a meeting per se, send it out in an email to everybody. Yep, some people are just going to delete it, but other people are going to really get into it. And if nothing else, they feel invested in. So that's another great way to help retain people and to develop them professionally. Next question I got here, what makes this generation trust their leadership? Carla, oof, great question, right? So empathy. It is one of the most important traits in a supervisor, and this is from surveys all over the place, right? Get to know people on a personal level. What is important to them? And that's that, what does it mean for you to live a great story? You know, what do you want to learn? What are you going to experience? What do you want to accomplish? How do you want to feel in both your career and in your life? Getting to know people on a personal level. That makes you more authentic and makes you more trustworthy. And then take their perspective, feelings, and experiences. Often get this, boy, they've got feelings. The younger generation, they have feelings. Yeah, they do, because we brought them up to allow them to have those feelings. So take their perspective and don't dismiss that. Communicate with them, be vulnerable with them, especially as a supervisor. My bosses never would have said these phrases, but we have to today because this makes us more authentic and makes us more real and human, right? So I don't know. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I'm having a hard time with. Do you have any insight? Those are some great questions to ask the younger generations or statements to say to them, because then they know that you'll be vulnerable with them and that you're looking for their input. Right? Be present, be approachable, right? Don't make fun of them when they come with the craziest ideas to improve the workplace, right? Just be present and encourage that, because some of their ideas will work, will make a difference. Be transparent in what you do. It teaches them how to make decisions. It teaches them how you supervise, and they can take the best of that and use that as they go up through the organization. And encourage our Gen Z folks. They are an anxious group, and there is a reason for this. They've been through school shootings, COVID, they've been through wars, they've been through recessions, they've been through a lot of different things. And for us Gen Xers, older millennials, baby boomers, we have had times in our life that were okay, that were peaceful, right? Gen Z has never experienced that. There has always been something going on in the world. And so they're an anxious group because they're just waiting for the next thing to happen. So be their biggest cheerleader and try to calm their anxiety as best that you can. And always, right, provide them the tools, the knowledge, and the opportunities. TKO, right? Tools, knowledge, and opportunity. They need to do their jobs. Next question, and we're getting down here to the end here, but what about instructing Gen Zers and future generations? I'm a firearms and defensive tactic instructor where there are rules that need to be followed for security. Completely understand that, right? But addressing those breaches of rules sometimes needs to be immediate, public, and corrective. That sometimes creates issues for students and instructors. Absolutely. We've always heard Supervisor 101, right? Criticize in private, praise in public. But in situations where safety is involved, sometimes you have to criticize in public. So here are some ideas, right? Set the expectation and boundary early and often, right? If you do this, I will be forced to do this. If you point a gun, even accidentally at someone else, I am going to scream and holler at you, okay, or tackle you or whatever it is, right? So make sure that you have those expectations and those boundaries really clear, because then they will be able to think, I don't want that to happen to me, and I know that this person is serious, so yeah, I'm not going to do whatever it is they don't want me to do. Also, explain the why. And again, right, we're going back to this, explain the why. Safety, absolutely. I care about you. And then this is a big one. As a range master or whatever that is, I'm creating a safe environment for you so you can focus in on what you need to learn. You don't need to be worried about this person pointing a gun at you or whatever it is. Okay? I'm going to create a safe environment so you can focus in on your learning. And then coach. And if you can, please don't scold or demean. Just coach. Don't put them down. Next question I got here. Are employers changing their outlook on job hoppers? Yes, hopefully, right? It used to be that they looked at this as not being able to commit or be reliable. Yeah, I can tell you as an administrator who hired and fired people, I looked at that. Is this person a job hopper? But my view of that has changed a little bit. Okay? So I want you to think about this from the employer's perspective. And I want you to really kind of open your brain, have that open mindset, right? That growth mindset. Employees that jump around a lot could potentially have better and more diverse skill sets. They're adaptable because they've seen different settings, cultures, that maybe they've even been in different industries, and they can bring that into the organization. And then motivation for job hopping. Really take a look at this as an administrator or a hiring agent. Were they job hopping to grow their career, to get those different skill sets? Or did they get a paycheck and then they just quit because they had rent and money for food or whatever for the next few weeks? Um, if you are a job hopper, make sure that you articulate why you left each job really, really well and make it forward, not backwards. So don't say I left because it was a toxic environment. Say I left to increase my skill set by going to this organization. Next question, why do we navigate younger, how do you navigate younger generation employees that state they're not going to do anything outside of their roles? I had interns that refused to do anything other than give therapy, although their roles required file creation and data entry. So boring stuff, right? um, Great question. So first of all, be really upfront with them. Right? Create and publish a clear job description with real requirements. And then in your job interviews, reiterate those requirements. You understand that you are going to be on call. You understand that you're going to have to work Christmas Day. You understand you're going to have to work weekends, things like that, third shift, whatever it is. Make sure that that's very clear. And then set some expectations as well during the onboarding process. And then if it's an on-call thing, like there's like a therapist that has to be on call, maybe set up a on-call schedule if possible, so people have some free time. Right? I know like sometimes, you know, somebody wants to go out and have a drink or something like that. It's really hard if you're always on call to do that because it just feels wrong. So make sure that you can set up that on-call schedule if at all possible. And then speak to the purpose and value of the work and how you have to, or you should want to be there for people. So that's the end of my questions. This is the course I'm talking about, and we will have it below in the description in this YouTube video. Um, this is getting and keeping the team that you need. I'm going to talk about recruiting, hiring, training, and retention tactics. There's about 300 different ideas in this course, and I also talk a lot about generations and what makes them tick and why we all are the way that we are, so we can work better together. But we'll have that link below. Please check it out, take a look at it. It's about 3 or 4 hours of overtime, the equivalent. That's the cost of it. And if you're short-staffed, you're spending that money like you wouldn't believe anyway. So maybe get some ideas out of this course. Like I said, 3 or 4 hours of overtime is going to pay this bill, and you hopefully get some great ideas out of it. And you can always reach out to me if you've got questions on anything within the course, or just reach out if you have a question as well. This is my contact information. I want you to have an awesome life by living a great story. And if you have those conversations with the people that you work with, that makes you more authentic, makes you more real. And they really, the younger generations specifically, really appreciate that. So here's my contact information. Please reach out if you've got questions. Chris?
Oh my gosh, what a fantastic session today. Thank you again so much for doing this. Folks, do check out Brenda's courses online. They are amazing. They are chock full of great tips and advice. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you right back here very soon. Bye now.